Well, good morning. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to Bridgnorth Baptist Church, or the virtual Bridgnorth Baptist Church. Look around you. Everybody that you see, part of church, and many, many more joining us in this virtual gathering this morning. We're really, really pleased to be getting together, to be giving praise and glory to God our Father, to lifting up the name of Jesus and allowing ourselves to hear the Holy Spirit and to have His Word influence us in our lives, even in these troubled times. It's fantastic just to be able to meet together, even though we are isolated. We are church, those who believe in Jesus, whatever our denomination, wherever we are in the world, we are church, and it's fantastic to gather together in this way. What I say just this morning, welcome to Mark Triggs, who's with his mother-in-law Jo in sunny Much Wenlock. Hey, Mark, welcome to the Clark side. As we are gathered here, me and Arlene and a few others, we live in Much Wenlock. It's fantastic. And also, if the media is to be believed, we are using Zoom. So I'd like to say also welcome to the Chinese intelligence services. And I hope also that you enjoy our service and that God richly blesses you as well. That'll be fantastic. So let's just pray and give this time to Jesus. So, Lord, we just thank you that we can all get together, that we can meet, and that we can be one. Even though we are physically separated, we are unified in spirit. We are all one in Jesus. And I just thank you for that. And we pray for your presence, Lord, across this place, the whole congregation of your saints worldwide, that there is a sense of unity and togetherness today. Lord, speak, we pray, to your people. Give us what we need to hear today, that we might be transformed to be more like Jesus in our own lives and in our communities, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So our service this morning is essentially a bit of me talking. We're going to have a time of worship. Arlene is going to lead worship today. Then we're going to hear God's word, and John Smith is going to speak. The message is based around the book that we're studying, which is on Ezra and Nehemiah, produced by Max Lucado. Um, and we're kind of following that through on our daily bread or our devotionals that come through via email. If you want to receive them and you don't, then please email us at admin@bridgenorthbaptist.co.uk, and we'll happily include you in those areas. Before we go any further, however, I have the difficult job, if you like, of informing those of you who know our sister Margaret Weir to say that sadly she died in the early hours of yesterday morning after what was not too long an illness. Her death was not unexpected, but still sad. She's a very, very long-standing member of our church, a real contributor to the life and the legacy of Bridgnorth Baptist Church. A major encouragement to a lot of people, and certainly to Arlene and myself over the last 30 plus years. Pray for Ruth, who she shares or shared a house with for many, many years. Pray for her family also. She's going to be very sadly missed. And it's a difficult time, really, for someone and for family to lose someone. So let's just pray now, if we can. So, Lord, we want to thank you, first of all, for Margaret's life. We want to thank you for her witness. We want to thank you for the testimony that was her life, for her encouraging spirit, for her faithfulness, Lord, that she always put you at the very front. And we just really praise you for that life. We pray for her family. At this time, we pray for Ruth also, who is really going to feel the gap and the loss. So we really pray for them. We pray that your mercy will surround them, that your provision will be just exactly what they need at this time. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, so we're going to have a time worship now. If you haven't already, those of you who are kids or who are the parents of kids, perhaps you might want to look at the material, because after the worship time, if you're going to do children's activities, that will be the time for that. But I'll give you a shout out about that later as well. But right now, over to Arlene, who's going to lead us in a time of worship.
Thanks, Graham. Just got audio now, so that you've got the benefit of having the words on the screen. I believe at the moment we're in a time of battle against frustration, fear, depression, boredom. And I believe that worship and praise is a weapon we can use. By worship, we can come into agreement with the fact that it's God that fights our battles and not us. So during the worship, there'll be times of proclamation, proclaiming the truth about God. Boredom. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Sing it with me, I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. Let's sing that again. You split the sea. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Yes, I am. I am a child of God. I raise a hallelujah hallelujah. I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah. I will watch the darkness flee. I'll raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. I'll raise a hallelujah. Fear you've lost your hold on me. Sing a little louder. 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 Sing a little louder in the presence of my enemies. Sing a little louder, louder than the unbelief. Sing a little louder, my weapon is a melody. Sing a little louder, heaven comes to fight for me. Raise a hallelujah. I'll raise a hallelujah. I'll raise a hallelujah. I'll raise a hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. 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 Your love is amazing, steady and unchanging. Your love is a mountain, firm my feet. Your love is a mystery, how you gently lift me when I am surrounded. Your love carries me. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Your love is surprising, I can feel it rising. Oh, the joy that's growing deep inside of me. Every time I see you, oh, your goodness shines through. I can feel this God song rising up in me. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. Your love is surprising, I can feel it rising. Oh, the joy that's growing deep inside of me. Every time I see you, oh, your goodness shines through. I can feel this God song rising up in me. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your love makes me sing. 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 Your love makes me sing. Your love makes me sing. You're worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all. From you are all things, to you are all things. You deserve the glory. You're worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all. From you are all things, to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense Amen. Amen. Right, over to Graham.
Wow, thank you, Arlene. That's wonderful and really, really great just to be praising God together. And I hope that that helped you to find just some presence as God moves us to worship Him. And He does indeed deserve the glory. Hallelujah. Now, if you have kids or kids, if you're watching and you have some of the material that's been made available for this morning, then now is the time for you to go and do that if that's what you're going to do. And just for those adults who are assisting with that, just to say that we do have this whole service recorded, so you can catch up and watch again. Please don't miss out in any way. And let's just pray for our children and young people at this time. Lord, we just thank you for our children and our young people. We just thank you that you've blessed us as a church family with children and with young people. And we just praise you for the contribution they make to the life of our church. We just praise you for the life that they bring. We praise you very much that they are part of church now. And Lord, we just pray that you bless them as they explore your word and explore relationship with you, Lord. We pray that you bless parents who are helping their children at this time, and that this will be a blessed time, a time of growing, a time of flourishing, a time of blossoming. Lord, we just pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And now we've got all the way to Highley. Jim is going to bring God's word to us this morning.
Morning. The reading this morning is from the book of Ezra, chapter 3, verses 1 to 11. It's titled, "The Altar is Rebuilt." Now, in early autumn, when the Israelites had settled in their towns, all the people assembled together as one person in Jerusalem. Then Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and his fellow priests, and Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, with his family, began to rebuild the altar of the God of Israel, so they could sacrifice burnt offerings on it, as instructed in the law of Moses, the man of God. Even though the people were afraid of the local residents, they rebuilt the altar on the old site. Then they immediately began to sacrifice burnt offerings on the altar to the Lord. They did this each morning and evening. They celebrated the festival of shelters as prescribed in the law of Moses, sacrificing the burnt offerings specified for each day of the festival. They also offered the regular burnt offerings and the offerings required for the new moon celebrations and the other annual festivals to the Lord. Free will offerings were also sacrificed to the Lord by the people. 15 days before the festival of shelters began, the priests had begun to sacrifice burnt offerings to the Lord. This was also before they had started to lay the foundation of the Lord's temple. Then they hired masons and carpenters and bought cedar logs from the people of Tyre and Sidon, paying them with food, wine, and olive oil. The logs were brought down from the Lebanon mountains and floated along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea to Joppa, for King Cyrus had given permission for this. The construction of the temple of God began in mid-spring during the second year after they had arrived in Jerusalem. The workforce was made up of everyone who had returned from exile, including Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and his fellow priests, and all the Levites. The Levites, who were 20 years old or older, were put in charge of rebuilding the Lord's temple. The workers at the temple of God were supervised by Jeshua with his sons and relatives, and Kadmiel and his sons, all descendants of Hodaviah. They were helped in this task by the Levites of the family of Henadad. When the builders completed the foundations of the Lord's temple, the priests put on their robes and took their places to blow their trumpets. And the Levites, descendants of Asaph, clashed their cymbals to praise the Lord, just as King David had prescribed. With praise and thanks, they sang this song to the Lord. He is good. His faithful love for Israel endures forever. Then all the people gave a great shout, praising the Lord, because the foundation of the Lord's temple had been laid. Over to you, Graham.
Thank you. Really good to hear God's word. Like I said, we're pursuing a study in Ezra and Nehemiah based on this book written by Max Lucado. And John Smith is going to come and share from that particular passage. And we're really excited to hear what he has to bring. And we're just going to pray for him now. So let's pray for John. So Lord, we just pray for John. We thank you that you have put your word in his heart. We thank you that you have given him a message to bring. And we pray, Lord, that you will give him boldness and confidence and enable him really just to share your word. Lord, whatever it is you have for each heart, work it in so that it stays and it sticks and it changes us as we listen to what it is you have to say to your people today. We just pray in Jesus' name. And now over to John.
Well, good morning, and it's good to be here in my office, my untidy office, and to be sharing God's word this morning. I feel really sorry for Jim with all those big words, the pronunciations. He should be glad that we didn't read chapter 2, because chapter 2 of the book of Ezra is full of big words and big names, and pronunciation is really difficult. I've appreciated the books of this gentleman over the years, and I've never known how to pronounce his name. Some say Lacado, some say Lacado, some say potato, some say potato, some say tomato, some say tomato. Actually, he's American, and I checked it out, and as far as I can see, his mother would have called him Max Lucado. But what's some name and a pronunciation between friends? I'm phonetically challenged. I come from Liverpool. I can't pronounce normal English words the same way as anybody else does. So who am I to talk? But following Max, whatever his name is, Max L's guide this morning, the theme is faith. And we're concentrating on one particular verse, Ezra chapter 3, verse 3, which says this: despite the fear of the peoples around them, they built the altar on its foundation and sacrificed burnt offerings on it to the Lord, both morning and evening sacrifice. Or as Jim read, which was very interesting reading this morning, it didn't say on its foundation, it said on the original place. So the altar was placed where it had been before devastation and dereliction all those years before. I want to tell you a story. In the mid-1970s, my late wife Margaret and I, along with our little son Gordon, who was 45 years old the other day, which sort of puts it in context, we joined a Baptist church in Dalkeith near Edinburgh. Actually, we call it Dalkeith, the locals called it Dalkeith. But it was a small church in an old building. And very soon we got the message. We understood that the church building was in the path of a road project, and the church fellowship was excited at the prospect of a new building courtesy of compensation from the local authority. Wow, what a gift to us. Our building was going to be destroyed. We were going to be given a site by the local authority at the corner of the main car park in our town, and the building was going to be completely paid for. But then came the bombshell. The road plans were abandoned. There would be no compensation. And we had a choice. We could stay where we were, the way we were, or we could exercise a huge step of faith and plan for a new building anyway. Now, God was growing that fellowship. Like ourselves, a number of young, active families had been drawn to the church, having moved to the area for employment. Within that church fellowship, evangelism was high on the agenda. People were becoming Christians, and very soon that building would be inadequate for our needs and for God's work. So as a fellowship, a small fellowship, we took the step of faith, believing that this was what God wanted us to do, and we started to plan for a new building. Why am I telling you this story? Because as we started to build, we experienced monthly miracles, as over the year or so of construction, the monthly contractor's bill was consistently matched by the monthly sum in the building fund. How did that happen? It was amazing. Miracle a month. And eventually in 1981, we celebrated the opening of the building. And from the very first Sunday, our congregation could not have fitted in that old building. It was a huge task. But as I read the Old Testament book of Ezra, I realized it was minuscule compared to the task that 50,000 exiles returning from captivity to a desolate Jerusalem had to accomplish. Did I say 50,000? Actually, it was 42,326 or something like that. But I'm a preacher, and preachers are allowed to be evangelistic when it comes to figures. 50,000. It was 70 years since the Jews had been taken into exile. Most of the returnees, and certainly the able-bodied among them, would have been born in captivity. Had they got any idea what was before them? They were breaking new ground. They were stepping into an unknown future. The prophet Jeremiah had not only painted a picture of dereliction, but also brought a prophetic word describing restoration of the land, and by implication, the completion of the temple building project, which they would now undertake. Let me read to you from Jeremiah 33 and verse 10. This is what the Lord says. You say about this place, it is a desolate waste without people or animals. Yet in the towns of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem that are deserted, inhabited by neither people nor animals, there will be heard once more the sounds of gladness and joy, the voices of bride and bridegroom, and the voices of those who bring thank offerings to the house of the Lord, saying, Give thanks to the Lord Almighty, for the Lord is good. His love endures forever. For I will restore the fortunes of the land as they were before, says the Lord. Notice the temple was described as the house of the Lord. In Old Testament times, the God of Israel was understood to dwell in the temple. So the project was to make a dwelling place for Almighty God. That's a big ask. I couldn't help but think, as we look at this particular passage of building in a situation of absolute devastation, I couldn't help but think of the Kevin Costner film Field of Dreams. Those who are older will remember this. It's a 1980s film. A farmer hears voices telling him to strip back part of his cornfield and to lay out a baseball field for the heroes of yesteryear, particularly a famous baseball player called Shoeless Joe. It was a crazy project, but it was a faith-filled project for the Kevin Costner character who holds onto the notion, if you build it, he will come. And yes, spoiler alert, in this fantasy film, the ghostly heroes of the past come and play baseball in his cornfield. I suppose a biblical example is Noah. Noah building that ark in faith, not even told by God, as far as I recall, that the animals were going to come until he had actually built the ark. God calls people to exploits of faith. And the returning exiles were to build the house of the Lord in the expectation that if they built it, he would come and dwell in it. They didn't start work on day one. They took 7 months to get themselves established in the villages around Jerusalem and further afield from which they'd originally come. Jim Liddy was reflecting a little bit before the service about the journey that they'd made from Babylon to Israel. It was a colossal journey. Maybe they needed 7 months to get over the journey. But then an amazing thing happened. Ezra 3 verse 1, the people assembled together as one in Jerusalem. There was unity. And I want you to realize how amazing that was. 50,000 people, well, 42,326 or whatever it was, people united. And these were Jewish people. I'll take my cue from Graham. He's already made the politically incorrect reference to the Chinese. And this isn't a politically incorrect reference to the Jews. They say this of themselves. Wherever you've got 2 Jews, 3 opinions. When you've got 42,326 of them, for them to be acting in unity was amazing. They assembled together as one. Unity was the precursor to temple building. Have you ever watched a building site? I'm sure you have. There are several in Bridgnorth right now. Along Hospital Path, you can look through and see what they're doing with the old Williams site. After site clearance, it's usual to dig and lay foundations for the walls of the buildings. But the first step of the Jerusalem builders was to build an altar. There's no evidence of anyone breaking ranks. You got it wrong. Why are you wasting time? Let's get the main foundations in for the building. There's plenty of time for that religious stuff later. No, the first priority was to honor the God for whom the temple was being built. It's not so very long ago we were thinking of the commands of Jesus, and one of those was seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the other things will come to pass. They were putting God first. In their way, they did it by building an altar and by offering sacrifices. Most of them had never been involved in sacrificial worship before. In exile, the faith had been kept alive in other ways. They followed the instructions of the scriptures to the letter. That's a good plan. Even wearing the priestly robes. You maybe notice I've got my summer preaching shirt on this morning. That's not prescribed in the Bible. It's prescribed by Bob Wilkinson, who wears a similar kind of shirt to sing in the worship band. Now, this was why they'd come to Jerusalem, their ancestral home. No doubt it was a time of great anticipation, but according to Ezra 3, verse 3, they did this despite the fear of the peoples around them. I don't remember us being fearful when we built the new church building in Dalkeith. The only possible source of fear would be to do with whether we could pay for everything. For as far as I know, there was no Mr. Big ready to bail us out if the cash flow stopped. But for these guys, they were on view, publicly restoring something which had been derelict for 70 years. It only struck me when I was in the shower this morning, don't go there too closely, but when I was in the shower this morning, it struck me that we know this site. If you've ever been to Israel, if you've ever seen pictures of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, it was there. It's a prominent site. It was in full view of the city. And if the walls were down and the site was derelict, then it would be visible. When I was a kid growing up in Liverpool in the 1950s, my friends and I used to play on what we called bomdies, bomb sites from the Second World War, where houses had been destroyed. And one day I remember going a little further afield with my friend Philip Andrew, and we walked into the site of a derelict church. Somehow we squeezed through the railings, and Philip, who belonged to a high Anglican church, was very, very cagey about walking on what he saw as holy ground as we got onto this bomb site. But again, the bomb site of a church devastated with little bits of walls left, overgrown with all sorts of plant growth, puts me in mind of what this site in Jerusalem must have looked like at the time when the exiles returned. Their priority was to build an altar for the Lord and get worship going again according to the prescriptions of the Mosaic law. But they did it in full view of everybody. When they'd been away for 70 years, there would be the descendants of those who never went into exile. There would be other people who weren't Jewish who came into the area. And it was a pretty dangerous operation that they were doing, building in full view. They would not be welcomed by all. In fact, they may not have been welcome at all. And so it's understandable that they would be afraid of opposition, of ridicule, of violence, of systematic destruction of what they built. Can you imagine anything more frustrating than to start to build and to come back the next day and find what you built had been destroyed? There was that possibility. I don't know if it happened like that, but there was that real possibility. Yet despite the fear, they carried on. You could say they carried on regardless. Why? Because they were responding to the prophetic word through Jeremiah. They were responding to the extraordinary opportunity given by Cyrus decree. This was so against the run of normal play. It must be the Lord. And in this context, faith conquered fear. Not blind faith or irresponsible faith, but faith in the God who'd been faithful to them as a people, even through captivity. Faith in the God who keeps his promises. I was thinking recently about the whole armor of God. I've sort of revisited that on the ski trip in Switzerland when I was speaking. I was thinking of the shield of faith. And I came across a quote from Mark Twain, which went like this: faith is believing what you know ain't true. Now, I'd rather trust Jesus, who said that if you exercise faith, even as small as a grain of mustard seed, you can move mountain-sized obstacles. And by the way, such faith is a free gift from God available to each of us. I love the picture, which you may have seen on Facebook, in which a grain of mustard rests on a person's finger. The caption reads, "I have a mustard seed and I'm not afraid to use it." These guys were not afraid to use their mustard seeds. And despite fear of the peoples around, they got on with the job God had called them to. Well, you might be asking the question this morning, what on earth has any of this to do with us today? It could simply be to say, are you fearful in these days of COVID-19? Many people are, and understandably so. I want to say to you this morning, let mustard seed faith dispel your fears, and despite your fears, live courageously. But there's more. Unlike the people in Dalkeith in the 70s, here as Bridgnorth Baptist Church, we don't face a major construction project. Unlike the returning exiles described by Ezra, we're not required to build a physical house of the Lord because we know he does not live in temples made with hands. We live in the age that Jesus foretold, when true worshippers are called to worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Peter speaks of Christians as living stones in a spiritual house. Paul tells the Corinthian Christians that they are a temple of the Holy Spirit. In parts of Liverpool, in parts of Glasgow, where I've also lived, there's a word which isn't used widely across the United Kingdom, and it's the word use, which is the plural of the word you. And it's there in the Greek language too. And it's as if Paul is saying to Corinthian Christians, yous all are the temple of the Holy Spirit. We don't need to build a place of sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice took place once for all at the cross. On the other hand, we're to be living sacrifices, bringing a sacrifice of praise. Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And I want to ask you the question this morning, are you ready to be part of that process of church building even during lockdown? Building the spiritual temple of the Lord according to his principles, relying on the promises of God, acting in unity, exercising courageous faith despite fear of opposition which may come, being prepared to do new things in a new way as new opportunities arise. And after lockdown, wow. Oh, and there's one more thing. Paul didn't only tell the Corinthian Christians that together, they were a temple of the Holy Spirit. He said it also of individual Christians. He said, don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? That's got certain moral implications, which Paul spells out. It maybe even has some isolation, self-isolation, personal protective equipment implications in this particular time of COVID-19. But more than any of the physical implications or moral implications, there are spiritual implications. What it means is this: each Christian, a temple of the Holy Spirit, becomes a representative of God on earth. That's a daunting faith. So let our faith dispel fear. If you've got a grain of mustard seed, it's a gift from Jesus. Don't be afraid to use it today and every day. Let me pray before we hand back to Graham. My Heavenly Father, we thank you that faith overcame fear for those returning exiles so many years ago. And we thank you, Father, that as they exercised faith in you and as they trusted in your promises and as they were united together, that they were able to accomplish the task that you had called them to, that despite the fear of those around about them, they got on with the job. Father, there are fears around all over the place right now. Despite the fears, help us to get on with the job, even from lockdown, of being your people and building not a temple, but building your church. And knowing that Jesus, your Son, has said, I will build my church. Help us to participate with him and partner with him in church building, even through lockdown. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Graham.
Wow, well, thank you, John. Yeah, do you have a mustard seed that you're not afraid to use? Then today is the day to get it planted and to get started. Thanks, John. That's fantastic. I just really like the image of building something and then having it ripped away. I've had that experience already. I put in some little lettuce seedlings one day, got up the next morning, pigeons had them all, and away they went. And the question is, do you then give up and not have another go? But of course, in faith, we know that what we plant in the name of Jesus has the real potential to reap a harvest. So thanks, John, for that. We're just going to spend a little bit of time praying about the situation that we're in at the moment and for the many, many circumstances that are being affected. We've got to remember that, you know, in isolation, we're still part of a wider community, not just a community of believers, but a community in our area, a community in this country, and of course citizens of a world that's currently in extraordinary times. So I just want to spend some time just praying this morning. So let's pray. Lord, we just want to pray for our world. We know that this virus is causing chaos across the world. But Lord, we're also aware that as all these countries, including ours, go into lockdown, other areas of difficulty continue. We've heard in the press this week that instances of malaria have gone up in countries affected. We know that there are areas of the world where civil war has not ceased and that people are not putting differences aside despite this challenge. Lord, we're aware that in lockdown there are those who are not doing so well, particularly in issues of domestic violence and abuse. So Lord, we pray for safety in all circumstances. Lord, we pray that you will remove this virus from the world, that you will save lives. Lord, we pray that those who are being put in harm's way because of this, Lord, will be protected. We pray that those who have authority in the world, Lord, will not take their eye off the ball in relation to needs and risks to those round about. And Lord, we pray that globally that you raise your church, that we as Christians will be shining light in each area of the world where we're represented, that we will be sources of peace and of comfort, the voice, Lord, often of reason. And we just pray that as a result of this, you will grow your church. Lord, we pray for this country. Lord, we think of the many, many, many people now who have been affected adversely through death and illness because of this virus. Lord, we pray for families struggling because of isolation, even as loved ones pass. And we just ask that your presence will be there. Lord, we pray that you move the Christians who know families to have wisdom to know what to say to bring comfort. We thank you, Lord, for those many, many people who are serving the public at this time. Lord, those who are at the front line of healthcare, but also those who are providing for the infrastructure of our society and serving us even at risk to themselves. We pray that you bless them. Lord, we pray that you enable us to constantly have hearts of gratitude and to value people, Lord, who are prepared to serve even at risk. Lord, their example is an example to us as we, as followers of Jesus, are called to be servants and to be sacrificial servants. And Lord, yet we're inspired by so many that we're seeing at this time. We pray for our government and its leadership. We pray that there will be wisdom. We pray that there will be cooperation. We pray that people will put their personal agendas aside and work together. Lord, we thank you for our Queen. We thank you that she knows you and that she speaks out, Lord, for a spiritual awareness within our society. We just pray that her influence is exerted throughout those who have power and influence. Lord, we pray for all those who are suffering financially, who are in a period of real insecurity. Lord, we pray that they will be enabled to be fed at this time, but also to recover financially as time moves on. We know we're in a time of transition, Lord. We just want to see the levels of hurt and suffering reduce. We cry out for it. We just pray, Lord, have mercy. We thank you that you leave no one on their own, but are by your presence there for any who will turn to you. Lord, move in this country, we pray. Move in our church, Lord. Enable us to be people who are encouraging, whose view is to be of support to one another. We pray again for the family of Margaret Weir. We pray for Ruth also. And we just ask that you will be close to them at this time. Enable us, Lord, to be family together. We thank you, above all, that by your grace we can turn to you knowing that in faith you have all the answers, even in difficult situations like this. And we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Thanks to John for his word. Thanks to Arlene for leading us in worship. Thank you, Jim, for taking on all those difficult words and bringing your reading. Thanks also to John Southcombe, who's been in the background making all the technology work. Thanks to everybody who's commented on chat as well. It's really, really good and encouraging to know about that. Please be aware that this service is recorded, and so if you've missed any of it or you want to recap, then there's the opportunity to do that, and a link will be made available if it hasn't already been made available. So bless you all. Great to have you with us. We hope that you'll come and visit us again on next Sunday, when John Southcombe will be wearing the Bridgnorth Baptist preaching shirt. I don't know how John is going to get it across to him, but look out for that. Also, we have a devotional which is available by email Monday through Friday, again based around the studies that we're doing at the moment. If you don't receive that at the moment and would like to, then please email us at admin@bridgnorthbaptist.co.uk, and we'll happily include you. Bless you all. Thank you for joining us. And let's say the grace together as we finish. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Bless you. Have a great Sunday. Bye.